Howdy, howdy, fellas. Been a few days, but got a match in the Vaquelin today. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it, but it's an interesting match. A couple of reasons. Here's my build, same as in my Kleber video, my spicy glass cannon pick there. But yeah, this is a match that I think illustrates a couple of core principles about honestly any ship play, but destroyer in particular, and also into this like heavy destroyer matchup. This is not a type of match that I typically like playing. I just find that it tends to be random snowballs, whoever loses the destroyer first, and then it's like, one team almost always loses 3 or 4 destroyers in the first 3 or 4 minutes, and then it's just, mop up the rest. This one doesn't quite go that way, but I'm chatting with this Kurosame because he mentioned it when the match started, and like I swear this happens to me. I have that ship. I picked it up, I think, whatever, 2 Christmases ago out of one of the crates, and it's interesting, but every time I play it with the like deep water torpedo hull, this is what I get. I swear, every time you play that ship with deep water torpedoes, you get 5 destroyers, 4 or 5 destroyers. And also, if you look at the teams, sometimes this happens. It's 5 destroyers, and they definitely have a bit of an advantage gunboat wise, kind of theory crafting, matchmaking wise. So if you were looking at this match, setting into this, like, which team's going to win, kind of favors red team. So yeah, with that in mind, one of the things that I've mentioned previously and have shown in a couple other destroyer videos, I think I did it in my Gdansk video, and then you'll see people do this a lot, is like, I'm not just nose in, especially in this heavy destroyer match. Like, we've seen the 4 capital ships that are on the map. We have no idea where any of the rest of the destroyers are. And here we go. Here comes torpedoes. I'm actually not located, so whoever this is just purely targeting a kind of common place for ships to be, but I'm already ready to move out of the way, and it was that Asashio. I don't actually have the upgraded range on this, and then now we're starting to see the destroyers pop up, and if you see the Kurosame contrasted to my positioning, he's nose into the cap. There's a Friesland that's pushing into him. I believe most of the other ships that are with him are close, but they're on the other side of the island. So instead of him being able to quickly disengage, it looks like he might have even beached there, but I think he's trapped in the Friesland sonar. Like, there's not really that much he can do in that instance, kind of from the second that he goes into that cap nose in. And I certainly don't say this to besmirch him in any way. Like, I've learned that by making that exact same mistake. You get stuck in that position, and you're like, well, crap. And they look now, even the Z-23 is over there. There were 4 destroyers right on top of him. So, oof. Okay, well, we got battleships down on each side. So again, this is honestly, the way this one plays out, there's a pretty heavy destroyer overload over at A, and there's still some carnage going on at C. You just have to play these matches. I think this is maybe a good kind of metaphor that you see for honestly any ship, is you have to consider what you haven't seen yet, what you don't know yet, and what might happen, rather than just going in making a play based on what you hope happens or what you expect to happen. Because the destroyers have such good concealment, you don't know where they are, so you can't just run in and like, oh, there's 4 destroyers at A. So here I'm making a bit of an unconventional play. This is not something that I would normally advise, but also because we have these destroyers, there's not as much fire support for the rest of the match. There's just this Veneto that's kind of hovering up here pretty far away from the cap, which is reasonable. The A is already captured. There's no reason for him to just push blindly into A. Our destroyers are kind of kiting out. Our battleships are kiting out. Again, there's not really a good reason for them to push into A with our destroyers not being able to, and our destroyers can't realistically push into A when they know there are 4 destroyers on the red team that are already in there. But I'm actually pushing through into the enemy spawn. Normally I would say, unless you have a good reason, you don't really want to be on the enemy half of the map. This early in the game when there's still this many ships around. There's still 8 red ships around. Pushing into 8 red ships is a bad play, but I kind of have a decent idea that they're not over here. I expect them to push into B. There they are. And so if I can kind of be up on this side, maybe be somewhere a little bit unexpected, but also try to isolate myself, I would love to engage one destroyer. I don't want to engage two or three. I've also talked about this before. Just trying to conserve my health. If I engage two destroyers, even if I win, I'm going to sacrifice a lot of health to win that. So ideally, I know this Jaeger is over here. I'm looking at the map. I'm seeing him. He's pointed north. My team at C is actually doing a great job. They were overmatched in the sense that the ships that they were facing, there were more of them, and they weren't particularly equipped to face the two battleships over here, and the one destroyer. They have a Helena and a destroyer, and we had a battleship that I think has already gone down over here. So like that's kind of a losing mix for them. They don't necessarily have the armor and damage, so would love but they are doing the right thing to kind of kite out, try to stay alive as long as possible, do as much damage, and keep things alive. Here, bam, Jaeger takes out Benson with torpedoes. That's something you always have to respect on the Jaeger. The guns actually, I think, are kind of better than people give them credit for. Like, the guns on the Jaeger are actually alright. They're certainly, don't get me wrong, it's not a gunboat. But yeah, those torpedoes are a menace. Yeah, and he takes out the Friesland too. I mean, that's certainly one of the drawbacks of the Friesland. It's not the most maneuverable. I mean, odds are good that he probably did something a little bit wrong, but here I'm trying to get the Jaeger. He's spotted. This is a high value target. I've got my reload boost on. I'm more or less isolated from their team. The Gneisenau goes down south of me, and the North Carolina is on the other side of this island, and the Veneto is on the other side of the other island. So, I've kind of managed my positioning to try to isolate myself from those other ships. It's not something you can always do, but in this case I could. Those zoning torpedoes I launched to B, because presumably they're going to come around as soon as they know I'm here, and as soon as they see I'm in C, hit someone coming through B. So that's great. So I know I've got a health advantage on whatever is coming at me from C. And if you look at the map, the Jaeger did a really good job taking out those two destroyers at A. I couldn't see who anybody's health over there is, so there very well could have been other ships helping him out on that, but he did get the killing blow with the torpedoes. So this is actually flipped the other way. I mean, this is another lesson about these kinds of matches. When there are destroyers like this, a lot of destroyers, the matches can flip very quickly. Even if it looks like it might be, you're at a disadvantage, you're at a drawback, whatever, at some point, you never know. This Shiratsuyu is kind of pushing into the Z-23. We now see that there are the two remaining destroyers are close to us, so we need to be careful. Z-23 has sonar, but I should outgun him if I can see him. Didn't know if it was going to be the destroyer over here or over there. I see it's Z-23. He has slightly better concealment than me, but he's out of his smoke screen right now, so he's pushed into me out of his smoke screen, but my reload boost isn't up, so this isn't ideal for me. Oof. Nobody saw that. He's a tier 7 destroyer, so Z-23 doesn't have the most amazing guns. They're fine, but they're not amazing, and they're rear facing loaded, right? Like one turret in the front, two in the back. I think that's it. Now I'm in a sonar. I'm hoping that he popped it earlier and it's going to run out. Oh, but he comes for me. He's coming for me. And then the Shiratsuyu comes back in too. And I love how this guy played this. And again, I can't stress enough, you can't always control your teammates, but when you can play with them, play off of them, it really does amplify how much you can do in a match. If the Shiratsuyu didn't come back in here and distract the Z-23, it's so much easier for the Z-23, whatever the other remaining red destroyer is, and that Veneto to close on me. I reload boost is back up, so we shred this guy pretty quickly. Turrets, come on! Alright, there he goes, finally down. But yeah, if the Shiratsuyu's not there, that's way easier for them to finish me off. So that's an instance where working with the team 100% paid off. Jaeger gets the Veneto. I mean, this guy was doing work. Again, this is a match that we kind of went into thinking, ooh, yuck, we're just going to get, gunboated down. But our team has really done a great job playing to the strengths of their ships and not necessarily trying to, force it or rush it. In a sense that, and again, not to hate on him in any way, but the Kurosame maybe tried to rush it a little bit into A. And paid the price for it. I think, actually, he probably, if I were in his position, and again, hindsight's 2020. It's so easy to say this stuff when you've watched through the match, you played through the match and watched it and saw how it unfolded. I think he should have gone to C. He spawned mid. We saw the battleships pretty early, so even if he was already positioning to go to A, I think it's in his best interest just to turn around and go to C. And that's something that I've started to try to do more often and more intentionally. Is like, yes, the rule of thumb is play your flank, but there are absolutely times that, based on your ship, based on the matchup, based on the your team's positioning, the enemy's team's positioning, that's not always the best case. In his case, he spawned mid, so he could have played mid anyway. But I really think that especially he's got the deep water torpedoes. He wants to be fighting the battleships, and with how far back the Veneto was at A, you know, the Kirasame has insanely long-range torpedoes. I think he tells me in here somewhere that he's even got the extra range. He's got like 20-kilometer torpedoes, which is funny but ridiculous. Like, yeah, you'll hit some stuff at that range, but I've played that build and it's funny, but it's not really all that practical. But I really think he wants to be over here. Yeah, because one of the battleships sank over here already. So there are 3 battleships. The only 3 of the 4 ships that he could torpedo in this match were at C. C was overloaded a little anyway. He should have just been at C, I think. So, we were chatting, and I like in the sense that, like, I think this is sometimes hard to get across. Like, we all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I have vivid memories of the times that I've been dev struck. I've eaten a torpedo in a destroyer that I shouldn't have, or I have such a clear memory of a match where I was in a Rochester and got spotted for like 3 seconds, and a Georgia dev struck me from across the map, and it's just like, oh, Shiratsugi ate my torpedoes, that's fine. It happens. We all make mistakes, but the more we can minimize those mistakes, learn from them, and look at other people, and again, like, see what you could have done differently, rather than just like, oh, you messed up and this was bad and you did everything wrong. Like, oh, what realistically could I have done differently? And sometimes it's hard to tell. Sometimes there's not an obvious choice, and it might have been, he might have gotten dev struck by a torpedo on the other side anyway. But I think realistically, you can look at the layout of the team and make a better choice. So, yeah, great game in the Vaquelin. I've really enjoyed this French line. I got the Kleber first because, hey, it's old Bureau, and I'm playing through the rest of these just because I enjoy that reload boost. So, thanks, guys. Good game.